So welcome to the press conference call for the May edition of the Philadelphia Fed's Business Outlook Survey. Today we will learn what manufacturers had to say about business activity for the month of May. I'm Danielle Mazzone, Media Relations Representative at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, and I am joined by Senior Economic Analyst Mike Trebbing. I'm now going to hand it over to Mike, who will start our conversation with a quick overview of this month's survey.
Good morning. Our regional manufacturing surveys indicators for general activity, new orders, and shipments were positive for the third consecutive month, although they fell slightly from higher readings last month. Employment continued to increase among the reporters, with about a fifth of the firms reporting a rise in employment this month. The survey's price indexes suggest somewhat more widespread price increases this month, yet over 3/4 of the firms are still reporting no change in their own manufactured good prices compared to April. The overall expectations for the next 6 months remain generally optimistic, and most of the broad 6-month forecast indicators rose over their readings in April. The Future Employment Index showed a notable improvement over last month. We'll note that our supplemental questions this month were a follow-up to last month's special questions. We've focused attention on labor issues, asking questions about perceived skill shortages and the firm's efforts to address this growing problem. While a sizable share of the firms reported problems hiring for certain positions, many were taking steps to increase recruitment, spending more on training of existing staff, partnering with schools to address skills gap, and a sizable portion of the firms indicated that wages had risen to attract needed workers.
Okay, Kathleen Madigan from the Wall Street Journal, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, and this actually ties in partly with the special questions. When you ask about prices paid, is that just for supplies, or does that include compensation?
We don't specifically guide them, but we know from conversations that it's a basket of input prices, including energy prices. So it's excluding the compensation price.
Okay. So the big increase in May this year it doesn't really relate to this idea that they're paying more wages or higher wages to attract new workers.
No, we think of it as material prices and general costs of doing business other than wages. In some of our surveys, we actually break out the energy prices, but for this survey, we just make it general prices paid.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, Jane Von Berken from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hi, I was just wondering, when you talk about the firms that had to decrease production, I guess my question is it true that everyone is talking about this shortage, but yet it doesn't appear that there's actually a real problem that causes them to curtail their business? I mean, is this whole issue overblown, do you think, Michael?
Well, no, that's the reason we asked the question, whether the shortage was impinging on production. We did have a few firms indicate that it was in their circumstance. However, most did not indicate that. The most the action, I guess, that was most commonly cited were increased recruiting efforts. And providing training to existing staff. And as I mentioned in the summary, also partnering with educational institutions, aligning skills to labor supply, which we knew of. There are programs around this area that address that. And as I mentioned, about a third of the firms actually were raising wages to attract needed people among these key skill areas. But when we do ask them about shortages or skills match, we do have a very sizable percentage indicating a problem there. And just to make sure, we ask them also about vacancies over 3 months. Some
Right.
people that criticize these surveys say that the firms actually don't have vacancies, but about a third of the firms did indicate a vacancy among positions greater than 3 months. We don't know how that's changed or how many jobs that is from a survey like this, but we're trying to fill in the gaps, I guess, of our knowledge of this problem of the skill gap problem that we keep hearing about, and in surveys comes close to the top of the list.
Any follow-up questions, Jane?
No, thank you.
Okay, Beth Fitzgerald from NJ Biz.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit? Do you know specifically what kind of skills are in short supply?
Mm-hmm.
And also, could you just address the kind of counterintuitive message we're getting here at a time where we all know that thousands of people are out of work and need a job? Basically, you're saying that there are jobs going begging. So
Right.
you could just kind of pull that all together.
Right. We did have some other questions that weren't published here, where we asked the kinds of jobs that were involved here, and we did publish the section that suggested the skill requirements, in terms of attainment of college degrees or high school degrees or some college or technical school, and that's presented in the results. But we did ask about other kinds of job descriptions, and the most common cited shortage area was skills in the use of production machines or tools, and plant-specific and system operator type skills. For example, that first grouping, use of production machines, we had about 3/4 of the firm indicating that as the top ranked key position in terms of their shortages. So, and that is reflected also in the results that we published, where some college and technical school requirements were viewed as necessary for these jobs. So it's specific production and tool type requirements that they're complaining about at this point. And in our travels around the district, we hear these stories repeatedly. So the survey was meant to do it a little bit more formally as a series of questions.
Can I ask another question? This is Jane from the Inquirer. Did you, in the unpublished questions, did you talk about any sort of foundational skills such as basic math or literacy or anything like that? Did that come up at all?
Yeah, they were lower ranked, but still, significant. We had the firms rank, for example, from 1 to 7, the most important to the least important, to have some idea of the ranking.
Okay.
And computer skills and basic skills and English language skills were included in the question, and those had large percentages, but and by percentages I'm talking about the share of firms that cited them as the top, for example, the top 3 most important skill areas. But in terms of the relative ranking, this skill in specific production machines and tools, ranked higher than say basic skills and English language skills.
So what was after the specific production machines? If that was number 1, what was like 2 or 3 on that?
Skills in the use of production machines and tools was 1. Specific plant and system operator skills, and it was 2. And then supervisory, management, and administrative skills was the 3rd, and then lower ranked. So that it's consistent with I think the story that we told in the question 2 of the special question table, and so it's consistent with stories we're hearing from manufacturing firms too about working with partners in schools and junior colleges, et cetera, to try to fine-tune what they perceive as a skills gap.
Any more questions from anyone? Okay.
Good, thanks.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for the question.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you all.